How does the startup matching work? Students who accept an offer to join a Startup Adventure program will be required to provide information about their skill set and preferences for the type of startup or industry they'd like to be placed in, and the type of roles or tasks that would be preferred. Skill set information will be collected across a range of categories, such as technical and programming skills, business, analytics, marketing, creativity, etc. The skills and knowledge that you have acquired may or may not be related to your study program. It doesn't matter. The goal is to identify the skills where there is demonstrated competency. Startup preferences will also be collected, which includes the type of startups or industries that are of greatest interest. For example, AI, robotics, health tech, fintech, sustainability, climate innovations. Ventures will also collect preferences relating to the role or task type, essentially what type of things you would like to be doing during your placement with the host startup. And all of this information supports the startup matching process. Next, the startups that have expressed interest in being a host startup will consider their business needs and how a student could contribute to their business, the goal being to gain mutually beneficial outcomes. The participating startup will assess their business needs against the student's skill set and interests. For some startups, they will only host students who have relevant skills to support what they do. For example, a robotics startup typically will only host students who have the necessary technical skills and knowledge to be able to contribute something of value and meaning to the startup. For other startups, the skill set is less critical, as the nature of the student's contribution may be more general or involve tasks where the necessary skills can be acquired during the course of the placement. The duration of the program is a factor that host startups need to take into consideration. As part of their assessment of their business needs and review of student skills, host startups will consider if they can adequately support a short 4-week placement in order to be able to offer you, the student, the best experience. Now, Ventures strongly encourage both the participating students and the host startups not to underestimate what could be achieved in 4 weeks. There are some incredible results and stories from students who've participated in a startup adventure, exceeding the expectations of the student and the startup. Now, it is essential for you to acknowledge that your startup preferences cannot and will not be guaranteed. It's important for you to know that your startup placement may not align with your area of study, your skill set, or your preferences or interests in a particular industry or role. There is not an infinite list of startups that participate in the Startup Adventure program as a host startup. Therefore, there is no option to pick and choose or negotiate a swap with another student. However, it's also important to recognize that the value of the program, of the placement, and the learnings you will gain are not limited because of your preferences being fulfilled or not fulfilled. In some cases, it can be more advantageous to have exposure of an industry or task that is completely unfamiliar and or something that you never would have chosen yourself. Now, this is where an open-minded attitude is required. You will get out of the program what you are prepared to put into it. Now, a few additional comments on the startup match. You may be the only student at the startup, or you could be one of 3. If you are hosted at a startup with other students, that doesn't necessarily mean that you will be involved in the same projects or tasks. Now, as per the program terms and conditions, students are expected to contribute full-time hours to the startup and to be based on site at the startup's workspace. Work from home, which technically would be from your hotel or hostel, is not permitted. While standard office hours are Monday to Friday, perhaps 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., some days may be longer, particularly if there is a deadline that the startup is chasing and you are contributing towards that end goal. And if your startup is an exhibitor at a conference or expo, your hours may extend into the weekend. If this is the case, usually a day off during the week is organized. With regards to the location of your startup, this is variable. This is a map of Singapore. The red pin drops highlight the location of the host startups who participated in the 2024 Singapore program. The purpose of the map is to illustrate the host startups are spread out and could be well outside the tourist areas and could potentially be on an industrial or a business park. Now, dependent on your choice of transportation, you could be traveling up to 60 or 90 minutes to get to your host startup. Now, here's another example of a startup location map. This map is from the 2023 Hanoi program. The yellow star on the middle left-hand side indicates the location of the student accommodation, and the pin drops the startup location. You can see that the startups are spread across various districts of Hanoi. Whilst the distances may not seem significant, the traffic can be extremely bad, leading to long commute times, and that applies to all of the Startup Adventure Program destinations. And the information in this video is designed to help you to assess if the Startup Adventure Program is a good fit for you, and ultimately to help you to ace your application.